It's good to see you guys this morning. For those of you that weren't here last week, we have started a new sermon series called Ask It, and it'll either be a 4-week sermon series or a 6-week sermon series, depending on what Pastor Nadeem chooses to do. And so last week we talked about asking a question that can answer almost every other question, and I will get to that in a minute. So yesterday was the last day of hunting season, and I was hunting with my hunt club, and I pulled up and pulled over on the side of the road for a second, and all of a sudden, coming down the road was somebody who has become a friend of mine, and he pulls up beside me and says, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Good, how are you doing?" And he says, "You can't be parked here." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll pull down the road a little bit." This happened to be the game warden. How many of y'all have ever been pulled over by law enforcement? Okay, a lot of us. So you all can for one moment sort of be in my shoes and maybe know how I felt. I'm pretty nervous when I preach, but I was way more nervous when he pulled up and told me that I couldn't be where I was. And so I decided that I would pull up. Oh, by the way, Ava was with me. And I pull up and I pull into a road that, guess what, I'm not supposed to be in. And so I pull up and I do that, and my so-called friends on the CB, they are telling me that I'm not supposed to be in that road, and they're laughing at me and all of that. And so because all of that is going on, I don't think that the game warden can hear us on the CB. But he can. So everything worked out well. I didn't get a ticket. But I say all that to say the question that we are supposed to ask ourselves, that the question that can almost answer about anything, any other question that we have, is what is the wise thing for me to do? What is the wise thing for me to do? I probably should have asked myself that question yesterday. But it was so funny that the guys on the CB were laughing so hard. A couple of them said that they had to pull over on the side of the road because tears had come to their eyes and they couldn't see where they were going. And so I'm glad that I could be comic relief for them. Matter of fact, I'm most of the time comic relief for them. But in any case, it was something that made me think about that question. What was the wise thing for me to do? Last week, I asked you all if you knew what this was, and many of you knew this was a magic 8-ball, and you probably remember it from when you were a child. And you can ask it a question, and you can shake it up, and it'll give you all sorts of different answers. But we know that we shouldn't live our lives that way, because it's just by chance whatever answer comes up. Last week when I shook it, I said, is the sermon going to be long today? And it came up and it said, things are trending in that direction. But we got out early, right? And so the 8-ball isn't necessarily how you want to choose to live your life. Rather, you want to live your life in other ways, and we're going to continue to go over that today. Last week, we focused on finding out what this question was and how we could reflect on that in every decision, every opportunity, and every invitation that we have in our life. And today we're going to talk about time. So what we came up with last week was, in light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? So today is about time and how we spend our time, the best ways for us to spend our time, and to ask that question, what is the wise thing for me to do, in light of the time that we have in our lives and how we spend it. So, how do you spend your time? How do you spend your time? A lot of us, all of us, have 24 hours in a day, right? Some of us use our time wisely. Some of us squander our time. But we only have a certain amount of time. We can overeat. We can overspend. We can even overachieve in our lives. But one thing that we can never, ever do is overlive. We can never overlive, because we all have a certain amount of time in our lives. So what does Scripture say about that? So in Job it says, a person's days are determined. When Job is talking to God, Job is saying, God, you have decreed the number of man's months and have set limits that he or she cannot exceed. A person's days are determined. God has decreed a number of man's months and have set limits he cannot exceed. Time is our most valuable resource. For those people who have seen family members pass away prematurely, save up money and look forward to retirement, and then as soon as they retire, they get sick and they're not able to travel and do what they wanted to do, and they find out very quickly how valuable time is. So there are 4 things that I'm just going to briefly talk about, and I mean really briefly, that we should know about time, but we choose to ignore. 4 things we should know about time and choose to ignore. I like to go to the gym every now and then, and so I think of this in terms of that because it helps me personally to understand what these mean. But for you, it could be anything else. Number 1, investing small amounts of time over time is cumulative. Investing small amounts of time over time is cumulative. So if I go to the gym and I just do a little bit, over time it's going to make me be more what? More healthy. Maybe cardiovascularly, maybe strength training, whatever it might be. But investing that time a little bit is better than not doing anything at all, or just going once and then not going again until my New Year's resolution comes around and I decide to do it for another week before I quit again. Number 2, neglect is cumulative. The more that you neglect your body, the more that you neglect your relationships, the more that you do things that cause neglect in your life, that begins to add up, and it begins to take a toll on you and your heart and your spirit and your mind and your emotions. It begins to do the same thing with your family and friends and your acquaintances and people that you work with. Neglect is also cumulative. Random has no cumulative value. If you go and you do something just on a random basis, like going to the gym, it's not going to help you unless you are more consistent in what you do. That has to do with your reading of the Bible, your praying, your studying, whatever it has to do with in your spiritual life, in your relationship, and your walk with God. Random also has no cumulative value. And the last one, in the areas that matter most in your life, or that should matter most in your life, you cannot make it up. You cannot make it up. I can't tell you how many times when I'm venting about one of the kids and what's going on with them and how frustrating it can be and what am I going to do with this or that, how many times somebody will say, it's frustrating now, but enjoy it. And make sure that you focus on them and spend that time with them, because before you know it, they're going to be gone. They're going to be gone, and you're not going to have them around to frustrate you anymore, because they're going to be doing having their own lives and that type of thing. Actually, they're still going to frustrate you, but you can't discipline them anymore, and they can just do whatever they want to do. But the point is that in the areas that matter most, you want to make sure that you are putting in the time that you need to put in order to get the most out of life and get the most out of those relationships. Because how many people get to a point where they say, I regret blank? And I think all of us would say we want to have the least amount of regrets in our lives as possible. What's the most valuable time? There was a study done. Whether this is true or not, I sort of am not sure about it. But what's the most valuable time you can spend with your children? Parents, throw some stuff out. The most valuable time. Okay, nobody wants to say anything. What time? Listening. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so dinner time. Dinner time is one of the best times that you can spend with your children, and that is a time when you can listen to how their day was, what they have going on in their life. While they're not captive, they sort of are. I think that another time that is good to spend with your children is when you're in the car with them, because they can't get away from you. And so, and you have control. You can drive around as long as you want, wherever you want, and talk to them, and they can't do anything about it. But dinner time. And so we want to focus on spending time with, whether it's our children, our parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, family, friends. Why is it that a lot of times when people do business, they do it over breakfast, lunch, or dinner? When you have a mealtime, it sort of breaks down walls and barriers. And around food, people tend to be a little more relaxed, and you're able to talk and reflect and have an impact in a different way than you might at other times. So what does God say about the topic, and what did we talk about last week? It comes from Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17, where Paul writes, "Be careful then how you live, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil." This was written in Paul's day, but I think that we would all agree that we are living in a time, even today, that is very difficult. There are a lot of bad things that happen to bad people and innocent people. Our days are numbered. We don't know when our lives are going to end. This morning, I was watching on the news, and there is a little girl. Her name is Paris Moore. Have y'all heard of that on the news? She was an 8-year-old little girl that was riding her bike in her front yard in Hopewell, and for no reason, somebody came by and shot her and killed her. Neither her nor her parents, in their wildest dreams, would have ever thought that something like that would have happened. And her life was cut short. And because of that, so was the time that she had here on earth to contribute to all of the different things that God had created her to do. And because of that, her time was cut short with her parents as well. And so I want to illustrate something to you guys. It's very important for us to make sure that when we are living our lives, that we get the full value out of the time that we have. And so I have asked 2 volunteers to come up and help me with this. And so I want you guys to come up here for a second. Y'all just stand up here at the corners. One of you hold that in. And Dawn, come around here and hold this in. Hold on. I need to get to... Okay, just hold that right there. This tape measure right now measures 86 inches. 86 inches. Just turn it like that. Not that they can read it, but it measures 86 inches. Karsten had a birthday yesterday. He turned 15. The end of this is 86 inches because that is the last average that I have been able to find of how long people are able to live today. So the average lifespan of people, 86 years old. Now, it could be less than that or more than that, but that's just what I found. That's not important. But 86 years old. Karsten turned 15 yesterday. I am 51. So in theory, this is how much time I have left. Some of you here may be past the number of 86. Congratulations. But where are you on here? Where are you on here? And if you're blessed enough to live this far, how much time do you have left? Maybe if you retired at 65, you're here, or 70 here, 75 here. Maybe you're on borrowed time, I don't know. But wherever you are on here, you can see, perhaps, how much time you have left. What are you going to do with this amount of time, or this amount of time? How much time, in theory, might you have left, and what are you going to do with that? I like this illustration. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Y'all give them a round of applause. I like this illustration because it helps us to see in real time, because we take our days for granted. We think when we fall asleep at night that we're going to wake up tomorrow. But for some people, there is no tomorrow. And so what are we doing with our time today? What have we been doing with our time? And might we think about how to use our time differently? So here's a big question I want to ask. In light of my past experiences, remember last week we said what you've gone through in the past, what you've dealt with, in light of our past experience, our current circumstances, what we're dealing with today, the joys and concerns and the pressures of living life today, and our future hopes and dreams. What do you hope for your life to look like in the future? And we said, hopefully, all of us have future hopes and dreams that we want to live into. And the way we live today helps to shape whether we're going to achieve what our future hopes and dreams are, or what God's future hopes and dreams are for us. So in light of our past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, where do I need to begin making consistent deposits of time? Where do I need to begin to make consistent deposits of time? In other words, where do I need to start spending my time more efficiently or more effectively in order to help me be a better follower of Jesus, or to help my children blank, or to help my parents blank? What do I need to do? Where do I need to make those deposits of time that will better make a difference in my life? And you'll ask the question, what is the wise thing for me to do when it comes to this? Now, I have a list of things that I'm going to put up here, and I'm going to read. It's like 15 or 17 of them. Some of them will apply to you, some of them won't. I put them up there because they apply to me, some of them. And I think that when they apply to me, they apply to other people. And so think about it when I put it up there, whether or not it's something that you should do more of. So, watch TV more. Connect deeper with others more. Eat healthily more. Surf the internet more. Read the Bible more. Text more. Exercise more. Play games on your phone more. I thought some people might laugh at that, but worship more. I didn't say come to church more. Worship more. Be on social media more. Give more. Participate in your hobbies more. Study more. Show your love to your spouse more. Show your love to your children more. Talk to God more. Maybe a couple of those resonate with you. And maybe when you saw them, you said, well, I don't need to do that more. I do that too much as it is. And then maybe there were some on there where you said, you know what, I do need to do that more. I do need to deposit more time in this area so that I can be a better child of God, a better follower of Jesus, a better husband, a better wife, a better son or a daughter. Ephesians 5:17 says, "So do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." The question of what is the wise thing for me to do is not that hard if you are constantly striving to live into what God's will is for your life. The way for you to do that is to talk to God. And when you're done talking to God, to listen. And God will tell you what God's will is for your life. So repeat this after me. In light of my past experiences. Okay, let's do it louder. In light of my past experiences. My current circumstances. And my future hopes and dreams. What is the wise thing for me to do? Good job. So, I hope that you will seek to find out what God's will is for your life, that you will ask that question in the light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams. God, what is the wise thing for me to do? Do that over the next several weeks, and hopefully it will begin to make a difference in all of our lives. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.